Welcome to the Audience Converter Podcast, the podcast for converting your audience from strangers to loyal fans. We dive deep and discuss how entrepreneurs, consultants, and coaches can level up their business to help more people in the world. Now here's your host, the creator of the Audience Conversion Method, Kimberly Weitkamp.
As an entrepreneur, you wear all of the hats: bookkeeper, sales specialist, customer service, social media manager, marketing director, and of course, you have to find the time to do your actual job, the reason you became an entrepreneur in the first place and decided to help people. It's really difficult to find the time to do your own tasks, much less create your own marketing. That's why I've created the Audience Conversion Method Live, a 4-week course that's going to dive deep into the framework I've created to help my clients plan out their next 12 months of marketing. No more wondering if you're writing the right stuff, if you're posting in the right places, or what you should be doing the next time you sit down to create your own marketing. Join me on the waitlist and be the first to receive information about how to sign up and be eligible for an early bird bonus. Go to theaudienceconverter.com/waitlist-AC-live.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Audience Converter Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about lead generation, a very important thing for all entrepreneurs. But before we dive in, I'm Kimberly Weitkamp, your host, conversion copywriter, and marketing strategist. Today, I'll be talking with Tom Poland to dive into lead generation and how to do it right for your business. Tom is a multiple best-selling author and inbound lead generation expert who works with professionals who are marketing services, advice, or software. He has clients in 27 cities and 15 time zones around the world. He's spoken on global speaking platforms alongside the likes of Brian Tracy, Marshall Goldsmith, Dr. Ivan Meisner, Michael Port, and many other marketing greats. He's in Australia, and today he is joining us on the show. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Kimberly.
I'm really excited to talk all about inbound marketing and lead generation. It's a fun topic for me, and I know it's really important for all entrepreneurs to just kind of get a handle on that. So why don't we just dive on in? Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to really figuring out the Leadsology method, and kind of what brought you to what you do now?
Okay, so we wind the clock back almost 40 years when I started my first business. And in those days, didn't have a thing called the internet. That's changed the ball game a bit, but the principles are still the same. But the Leadsology was born out of actually a series of frustrations and disappointments because I paid a lot of money to a lot of people and went to a lot of seminars and workshops, as you did back then, and went back and implemented everything that I'd learned and found that it didn't make any difference. And it took me way too long to figure out why. And the why was because the marketing people I was learning from were giving marketing strategies and tactics and campaigns that were meant to work for everyone. And what I discovered is that when you're marketing something that's a service or a software, that's essentially, I call it the invisible, marketing the invisible, that what works for, say, a car seller or someone who's selling golf clubs doesn't work for you. So, a consultant or a business coach, you can't just stick up a billboard and have people on the freeway pull over and, order your golf clubs. In other words, I discovered that all the marketing works for something that's a physical product, unfortunately does not work for something that's a service or advice, or later on it became software as well. So that's how I came up with Leadsology, because then I had to figure the darn thing out myself, which took about 11 years. And once I had figured it out, then everyone said, well, how are you getting all these leads? And that was the birth of Leadsology. And I switched from marketing for my own businesses to actually showing people how to do lead generation.
Wow, that's I love your intro there, right? Before the internet, things have changed just slightly. I must agree with you. However,
but the principles haven't. The mediums have changed, but not the principles, which is what effective marketing does, is it puts an offer in front of someone who's already looking for the offer. That
absolutely.
was true pre-internet, and it's true now.
So I love your approach about how you realize that, if you're marketing the invisible, I like that phrase. I've not heard it before, where it's like coaching or services or that type of thing. It's not, the physical products. You're not selling a coat. So can you tell me a little bit about what the differences are for marketing the invisible.
Okay, so the biggest difference is that when you're selling a car or golf clubs or a house, people are interested in the product or service. Sorry, the product. It's a physical thing. So is the brand a reputable one? Does it have the features I want? Is there a warranty, a guarantee? What's the price? So it's all about the product, right? But when you're marketing advice services or development software, it's about the person. And when you're marketing the invisible, it's far more like you're proposing marriage than it is selling a washing machine. Because and just think about buying a washing machine. You go into the appliance store, or you shop online or whatever. You don't have to like the salesperson. You have to like the washing machine. Because once you got that washing machine installed, you don't have to anything to do with the salesperson anymore. But if you're a consultant, et cetera, then people are actually entering into a relationship with you. And that's why I say it's far more like you're proposing marriage. You really, it's a really good idea to offer people a few first dates, or a few dates, I should say, before you propose marriage. I mean, I fell in love with my wife at first sight. I mean, literally, I literally fell in love with her at first sight. And I could have gone up to her and proposed marriage, but I figured, I was just smart enough to know that probably wouldn't work very well. And so we had a few first dates. I mean, I can tell you the whole story, but it was bordering on miraculous. When I saw her across the other side of a crowded room, literally, it was like the start of a workshop, a meditation retreat, and the whole of the rest of the room went opaque apart from her face. Everything else in the room was out of focus. I was just absolutely gone. Oh my God, I've got to meet this woman. Anyway, cut a long story short, we dated for like a year, and then we got married. But when if you're a business coach, or you've got high-end software, or you're a consultant or something like that, a financial planner, people want to get to know you before you propose that you meet and talk about working together. So, and this is where content marketing comes in. And this is the difference between outbound marketing, which will work fine for your golf clubs and your washing machines and everything else, but will not work well when you're marketing invisible. So content of very different descriptions. So it could be webinar content, it could be a book, it could be social media content, allows people to have those first few dates with you before you suggest that they reach out and purchase something or book a time to have a chat with you about becoming a client.
Absolutely. I love that approach that you're talking about. It's very simple and straightforward. And it's definitely true. I find, one of the biggest things that you'll find pushback on as a copywriter, I've found, is people are like, well, I don't want to put too much of myself into my marketing. And I'll tell them the reason why people want to work with you, because I also work with coaches and consultants. Right. The reason they want to work with you is because you're you, not because you're somebody else, not because you swiped a template from somebody that sounds nothing like you. They want to work with you because they like you and your approach and the way you do things.
Absolutely. We should infuse our marketing with our ethics and our personality and our values and our beliefs, because that's what we're here for. We're here to get our gift to the world, unique as it is, out there. That's our destiny. That's our path. That's our life purpose. If we make ourselves sound the same as everyone else, then we're taking up a human body, which is superfluous. It's completely, there's no point to it. So we've got to project who we are in our marketing. And besides the whole thing about it's your gift to the world, which I totally believe and promote that concept, it's the one thing that no one else can copy. No one else is you. So it's the one competitive advantage, because lots of things, I mean, if I run a webinar and people can copy how I do that, right? But they can't copy Tom Poland because there's only one of me. I've got a unique DNA, unique eyeball, unique everything. So for I could almost literally say, for God's sake, but for your own sake, be you and express you in your marketing, because that is your sole and only competitive point of difference that cannot be copied.
Absolutely. And, it's something that a lot of people, I think, are finally kind of figuring out. You'll see a lot of content out there, right, about being authentic. Right. And that's just, be yourself, be you, especially if you're talking about selling the invisible like you are, where you're going to be working closely with somebody with advice or with consulting or that kind of thing. You want to be able to know, well, if their marketing sounds like this, and then I talk to the real person, it shouldn't be a disconnect, right? It should sound like the same person. It should give you a preview of what it's like to work with you by consuming that content, by reading those emails, by attending that webinar.
100%. I agree. 100%. It's the book cover. the content of the book needs to be reflected in the cover. And, as I often say to people, if you have someone that does bait and switch at the marketing point, it's not going to get any better when you work with them. So if someone says, look, this is an amazing webinar, come along and you'll learn this and you'll learn that, and it turns out it's just a 1-hour sales pitch, is that going to get any better once you hand them money? No, it's not. They're not going to be. If they're dishonest in their marketing, they're going to be dishonest in their value delivery, so don't pay them any money. But
I so agree.
yeah.
I've attended so many webinars. They promise to teach you something. Of course, usually I know at the end of a webinar, there is going to be an offer in general, but I would like the actual content of the webinar to teach me something.
Yeah. And it's an old saying, if you can't feed the sheep, don't shear them. So if you can't provide
that one,
you earn the right to make people an offer by giving them fantastic content. So, and it's value-added marketing. It's like the date, right? You don't want people walking away from your first date going, well, man, that guy's a jerk. Even if you don't go anywhere else, you at least want them walking away, having made a positive impact on their life, and I don't know, at least giving them a fun evening, I guess. So think of your marketing that every single point of contact in your marketing should add value to someone. It should make someone's lives potentially a little bit better, because that's your book cover, and that obviously should be reflected in your value delivery, your product or your service as well.
Absolutely. That's kind of my whole approach is, at the heart of every marketing campaign should be the question of how can I help you? Because if you're not providing value, if you're not helping your audience, then are you really going to be able to continue to help them at a higher level?
Yeah. And yeah, so let's leave behind all the bait and switch. So bait and switch is where people promise something, but you end up with something else that's different. Let's leave all that behind. And that's a part of being, we can talk about, authenticity in the marketing is allowing your thoughts, your values, your personality to come through as a flavor. The genuineness of the marketing is let's give people what we told them we're going to give them. For example, with my clients, I recommend if you're going to do a webinar, don't present it as a free training webinar. Present it as a demonstration of how you work with your clients, because that's a more direct, transparent, and accurate description of what they're going to experience. And let them know right from the get-go that there's going to be an offer at the end of the webinar, and you can hang around for that and listen to it if you like, or you can disappear if you got what you came for. So let's just tell people, let's be smart about it, but let's tell people what they're going to experience, and then at least deliver, if not over-deliver on that experience. So they have a great impression of our brand. And bearing in mind that most people won't book a time to have a chat with you on the first exposure, it's going to be on average the 5th exposure to your brand. So they might have listened to your podcast, they might have downloaded your free e-guide, might have attended your webinar, done your checklist, whatever. But it's the 5th exposure to your brand that the majority of people who will become your clients are going to reach out to you and make an inquiry on. 5 dates.
Absolutely. It's such a great approach to just kind of reframe what you're using the marketing term for, right? Webinar it's a preview of how you're working with you. I really like that. So I know that you've literally written the book on Leadsology, but can you give us a little kind of overview of what that framework looks like?
Okay. Yeah, great question. So think about every single type of marketing, whether it's inbound or outbound marketing, follows, there's a 3-part structure to it. First of all, you need an audience. So these are the people that you're going to run your webinar for, or the people who are going to read your book, or the people who are going to download your PDF, have a look at your social media assets. If there's no people, well, we've got no marketing, right? So everyone's got to have an audience. And the question is, of all the different options you have when sourcing your audiences, whether it's Facebook ads or Pinterest or whatever it might be, what's the best audience source? The next part of every single marketing equation is the asset. And the asset's that's the mechanism through which you get the message about your magic out to the market, out to the audience. It could be the book or the webinar or the Facebook group or whatever it happens to be. But article marketing, there's radio advertisements, there's just a gazillion different ways that you can get your message about what it is you do out to your audience. And that's what we call your asset. So we've got the audience, we've got the asset, and finally we've got the action, the call to action. What is it when people are ready to reach out to you? What do you want them to do? What's the call to action? Lots of different calls to actions. You can download, you can connect, you can follow, you can book a consult, you can buy something. So in broad terms, there's the framework for every single sort of type of marketing on the planet. You need an audience, you need an asset, and you need a call to action. So the question then becomes, well, for my service and my market in my country, and for me, what's the best audience, what's the best asset, what's the best call to action. So we can cut to the skinny on that. The best way to get your audience is through other people's lists, other people's networks, other people's email lists. That's the best audience source, because if someone's listening to this podcast, Kimberly, then they're probably going to be interested in lead gen and marketing and copywriting. So this is an example of someone else's network. This is an example of an audience which is completely free to access, which is rinse and repeatable because there's lots of different audiences out there, and which is of relatively high quality. What we do is we drive people, depending on the audience source, is we'll drive people to a webinar. And that's like a first date. People get to see how I work with my clients. They can, take some time to get to know me and so on. And the call to action is the consult. So if listeners think of those three parts, the best audience is other people's networks because it's free and exhaustible and of relatively high quality. The best asset is to get interested people to attend your webinar so that you can prove or demonstrate exactly how you work with your clients. And then the best call to action is for them to book a consult with you.
Wow, it's nice and simple and straightforward. And it's something that I think a lot of people appreciate when you kind of just define it, move on to the next step. And I liked what you said about the asset and action, because it's really important to know what is the next step you want people to take. Is it that you want them to just follow you and get passive interaction? Are you wanting to get them onto that phone call immediately, or is that something that you want to do a little bit later? All of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the asset, because if the asset, say, is a Pinterest page, well, that's not where you want to call to action to book a consult. That's kind of like, it's almost like proposing marriage at first sight. Is you've seen my pin here, which is nice. Book a time to talk with me. No, we haven't had a first date yet. So we need to get them. We need to get them, give them opportunities to get to know us before we propose that they reach out and talk to us.
It's like seeing your future wife across the room, right? You got to have the first date first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't ask her to marry you straight off the bat.
It's a good plan. So you talk about something called Hugh Jackman marketing, and I'm really intrigued and want to know a little bit more about that.
Well, long story short, I was having coffee with my wife in the kitchen one day. This is actually early last year. And I don't know why, I had some sort of brain sneeze. And I said to her, "Who do you think is the world's most irresistible man?" And we had a conversation around this. And eventually her face lit up and she said, "Oh, I know, Hugh Jackman." And I said, "Yeah, I guess, he's a hunk of lovin', right? He's pretty good looking. He's got a body Adonis would die for. He can sing, he can dance. If you've seen The Greatest Showman and so many other movies, and Les Miserables, he's incredible." And I said, "Okay, all right, I'm buying this. I accept your answer," I said. And then I had the second brain sneeze, and I said, "Well, what would happen if there was a knock at the front door right now, and you went and answered, and it was Hugh Jackman, and he proposed to you? So what would you tell him?" And she looked at me and she said, "Tom, I love you, right?" And I thought, I said to her, "Yeah, I think I know what's coming next." And she's kind of blurted it out. She said, "Well, I'm sorry, but it's Hugh frickin' Jackman. I'd run away with the guy." And I sort of wiped a tear out of the corner of my eye, and I've been joking, but I said to her, I thought about it for a moment. I said to her, "You know what? I don't think you need to apologize, because if I had answered the front door and Hugh Jackman had proposed to me, I probably would have gone as well, and I'm not even gay." It's Hugh frickin' Jackman. And the reason I tell the story is it illustrates a really important point, in that a lot of people practice what I call Hugh Jackman marketing. It's like proposal at first sight, right? We talked about that before. So what does that look like? It looks like going to a business networking meeting and thrusting your business card into the hands of perfect strangers and saying, "If you want to talk about SEO services, let me know." That's Hugh Jackman marketing. You're sending out 10,000 direct mail letters to people who have absolutely no idea if they have any interest whatsoever in our services, and saying, "Look, just, go to this URL and book a time. We'll have a talk about this." So that's all that Hugh Jackman marketing will work pretty good if you have golf clubs or a house. You can put a billboard up. You can do a radio advertisement and say, "We've got this super duper thing. Come and have a look at it." And that's the difference between marketing physical products, which you can get away with Hugh Jackman marketing, half-price golf clubs. People are going to drive in and have a look at that thing. But you can't get away with Hugh Jackman marketing when you're marketing services, advice, or software. You've got to create this content we're talking about, and get the audiences to experience your asset, and then you've earned the right, then you fed the sheep, and you earn the right to share them, make them an offer to have a consult.
Very interesting approach to that. And I think also it's kind of, with Hugh Jackman, right? It's someone everyone knows. So, okay, then you could propose marriage. But, when you're doing the invisible, when you're providing services or advice or that kind of thing, not everyone's going to know you. Even if you're well known in your small circle, if they're slightly outside of that circle, they may not know who you are. So you need to be able to establish that connection first.
Yeah, I'll offer them a few dates. And it's, The webinar is probably the exception. We've tracked all the numbers, and we know that we divide webinar attendees into three categories. There are the seekers, and these are the people who have come along and are hoping that they can buy from you, that they can book a consult, or better still, they can just get a URL and go and sign up for your program. But that's only 3% of the audience, so the seekers. And there's the explorers, who the other ones the 12% of your audience are explorers. These are people who are going to need the 5 exposures to your brand before they're ready to reach out and book a consult or buy anything. So I call them explorers because they have to have their need for exploration met before they buy. They're slower decision makers than the seekers. And if you don't have multiple opportunities for them to experience your brand, maybe a blog or a podcast or webinar and so on, then they will go and get that need net somewhere else. So they'll come into your email subscriber list and then they'll disappear again. So 3% are seekers. They just want to know how to buy, and the sooner the better. 12% are explorers, and the other 85% are wanderers. They just are wandering around, smelling the flowers, so to speak. But the name of the game, of course, is on your webinar or whatever it is however they're experiencing, whatever date that they're having with you, is to move the wanderers into the explorers and to move the explorers into the seekers.
I love that description. That is such a great explanation, because they'll tell you at any one time only 3% of your audience is interested in buying from you, because they've reached that point where they're ready to go. They're like, okay, just give me the link. But talking about how you need to make sure to move the rest of the people into those other stages, and I've not heard it broken down to the explorers and the wanderers that way before.
Yeah, and once you understand that, you understand why it's so important, not just to go straight for the jugular and go, hey, book a consult. You understand why it's important to add value, because if you think of, let's say it's Sunday morning and you decide to go through a walk through a forest, and you're just going to walk through the forest because you want to be in nature. You're not trying to get anywhere. You might go to an out and back or a loop or something. It's just, you just want to walk through a forest. But so it's Sunday morning, you're walking through the forest and you see something shining like a few yards off the track. And it glinting in the sunlight. If you imagine this, you walk over and you see it's a really big diamond. So you pick up the diamond and you have a look at it. You stick it in your rucksack or your pocket or whatever. The very next thing you're going to do is look for more diamonds, because you've just found something unexpectedly that was very valuable. And it's exactly the same experience for the wanderers when they come to your webinar or they download a free PDF or the blog post. If they find something that's valuable, even though they weren't looking for it, they will keep looking around your brand to see if there's something else.
They're looking for those shining diamonds, and once you give them one, then they're hoping to get the next one.
Yeah, and you've just shifted them from being a wanderer to an explorer, because going back to my metaphor, on the forest trail, they were starting with no intention to explore for anything, but now they've found something valuable, they're going to keep their eye out for more valuable items. And same deal, as I said, if they've been to your blog post, your podcast, your webinar, whatever it is you're running, give them something valuable so you can shift the wanderers, the 85%, into the explorers, the 12%.
Absolutely. So we've talked about so many really great things here about how to divide your audience, about not proposing marriage on the first date or before the first date, and talking about moving people from one step to the next step in the journey, from moving from I don't know who you are to okay, now I'm ready to have a chat. If you had one piece of information or one key takeaway, right? We're almost out of time here, so one key takeaway for people to take from this episode. After, I'm a big fan of action. So after they listen to this episode, what's the first thing they should go do?
The foundation for all effective marketing is getting your marketing message right. You need to have I don't really mind what people call it, elevator pitch, USP, slogan, tagline, or whatever. But you need to have something you can infuse all of your marketing with, a message that is going to get cut through. Critical concept. You get cut through, gets noticed, and also motivates people to want to know more. So I can help folk do that we have a 5-day challenge, which helps people do that, plus generate some leads. It's called 5hourchallenge.com. So folks, that's one action they can take. And that's like a 10-minute video every day over the 5 days. If they do that video plus the action item, it's going to take about 5 days. They'll have a marketing message that's going to get cut through. And that can be used on the cover of a book. It can be titled the webinar. It can be used at your business networking meetings, on your website, on your LinkedIn profile. That's what I would start with, is get your marketing message right. So you get cut through and you motivate people to want to know more.
That is such a valuable gift. Thank you so much for offering that. Again, people check out 5hourchallenge.com. And of course, all of these will be in the show notes. And it's really true. You need to know what you're talking about and how to talk about it so that it's really easy for you to meet somebody new, let them know what you do, and move them to, oh, that's interesting, or, oh, that's not for me. And getting the marketing message right is a really key first step to that. So, Tom, if somebody wants to work with you or learn more about you and Leadsology and what you do, how can they connect with you?
Best thing they can do is go to ineedinbound.com. ineedinbound.com. Book a 15-minute session. We'll have a chat. We'll have a conversation. I enjoy meeting with people, and we'll explore whether I've got something here that's right for them or not. It won't be a free idea session, but I also promise it won't be a sales ambush either. It'll just be a conversation between two adults to figure out, as I said, if I've got something that might be useful.
Fantastic. So definitely check out ineedinbound.com, and we'll have a couple of social networks that Tom is on. You can see a little bit about what he's posting about. Tom, I want to say thank you so much for coming onto the show and sharing your wisdom with all of us and all of your really great stories.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being such a great host and making it easy for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Audience Converter Podcast. For more information and important links about today's show, or for access to our website, visit theaudienceconverter.com. Take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.